欢迎来到 Mandarin Tune Up， 我是 Stephanie. The third tone is a nightmare. It changes directions, it changes into another tone, and most of the time, it doesn't even sound like what it promised to be. But just like everything in languages, it follows rules. And once you understand those rules and practice consistently, the third tone will become your second nature. Let's see how third tone looks like on paper and hear how it sounds like in reality. This is the tone chart that we all know. The 5 lines represent your voice range from low to high. You can see that the third tone starts pretty low, dips into the bottom, and then rises again. Here's how it sounds like. 好,早. However, this is only the textbook version of the third tone. In reality, 99% of the time, it doesn't sound like that. Here's what it sounds like most of the time. Starts low, goes lower. That's it. So why do we have 2 versions of the same tone? The full curve is called a complete third tone. We only use it in isolated words like 好 or 早, or right before a pause when you have all the time in the world to bounce back. But even then, in everyday speech, we often don't rise unless we want to emphasize clarity. Most of the time, people use the half third tone, a low tone that doesn't rise. So let's troubleshoot your third tone pronunciation. In almost every case, your mistakes come down to this. It is just not low enough. If your third tone sounds like a first tone, put it lower. If your third tone sounds like a second tone, put it lower and maybe just not rise at all. If your third tone sounds like a fourth tone, you're focusing too much on the fall. Again, start lower. The third tone is so low that the falling quality is actually very subtle. Just go low. Let's compare the third tone to other tones in real time. First, let's compare it to the first tone, the highest tone. Repeat after me. 晚安，说晚安，跟你说晚安，他想跟你说晚安。Can you hear how I was jumping back and forth between highs and lows? Now let's compare the third tone and second tones, since people often confuse the two. 啤酒，好啤酒，19瓶好啤酒，李鹏有19瓶好啤酒。Can you hear the difference? The third tone stays low, while the second tone rises. Next, compare the third tone with the fourth tone. 考试，自己去考试，你自己去考试，我不想要你自己去考试。Can you hear it? The fourth tone starts high and drops, but the third tone stays low. Now, as you're getting more and more familiar with the sound, test your ears with some minimal pairs. 启示，骑士，火车，货车，孤立，鼓励。We can't talk about the third tone without talking about a third tone change. When 2 third tones appear in a row, the first one becomes a second tone. For example, we all know the word 你好. It is always spelled with 2 third tones. But if you try to say both with your deepest voice, that's too low for too long. 你好, that's not comfortable. So we change the first one into a second tone. 你好. We pronounce it that way naturally without thinking about it. That's why the spelling doesn't even change. We just know. But now here comes the problem. What if there are 3 in a row, 4, 5, or more? Well, there are actually many studies on this. People tend to pronounce them differently based on the perceived sentence structure and speed. Here's one way to do it. For example, fruit. This is simple. We change the first one to a second tone, 水果. Now let's add a word in front, to buy fruits. First, group the syllables into 2 words, to buy plus fruit. The fruit will be changed into 水果. Now there are no back-to-back third tones, so we say 买水果. Let's add one more element to it, when to buy fruits. Group the syllables into words, when, to buy, and fruit. 几点, 买, and 水果. Okay, now we're left with one pair of third tones, 点 and 买. So 点 will change into a second tone. 几点买水果? Now the sentence sounds smooth and clear. Here's an assignment for you. How do you say this sentence? When does Miss Lee want to buy fruits? Leave your answer in the comments below and I will check it for you. I hope this video answered your questions about the third tone. If you have any more questions, leave a comment and I will get back to you. In our next video, we will troubleshoot the fourth tone and learn how not to sound angry when singing it. Keep practicing and stay tuned. 我们下次见咯，拜拜。